Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadaki Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Chutapatakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrachatam Sahaganaragunafanditam Tham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Patam Sahagana Radha Sri Vishakambitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratao Pangor Mama Manda Matirgati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bojao Radha Madana Mohana Divya Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Sriman Ratnagara Simhasanastao Sri Sri Radha Sila Govinda Deva Pristadivi Sevya Manosmarani Sriman Rasara Sarambi Vamsivata Tatasvita Karshan Venu Svanayar Gopir Gopinatha Sriye Sunaha Takta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patithanam bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. To be with all of you in Sri Vrindavan. Tonight, His Holiness Richard Swami Maharaj will speak. But since he is not here yet, I will say something. Just to prepare your consciousness for His divine appearance. Yesterday, we briefly spoke on the subject of Shri Radha Madan Mohan and Shri Radha Govinda Deva. We read in Srimad Bhagavatam on the full moon night of Sharad season, Krishna wanted to reveal the crescendo of the highest love and devotion. It was on this night that he stood under the Bonsai Bhatt tree, which is just a few minutes from here, and played upon his flute. The infinite love of Krishna's heart poured through his beautiful smiling lips, creating the most intoxicating spiritual music through his flute. Our acharyas explain that Krishna is all attractive. He possesses all opulences in full. Especially his beautiful face is the essence of all sweetness. And his lips are the essence of the sweetness of his face. And when the love of his heart pours through his lips into the flute, it creates a sound which entered into each of the gopis' ears. And they could hear Krishna personally calling for each and every one of them. They left everything only to give happiness to Krishna. Our acharyas teach us that it is not that the gopis wanted to enjoy Krishna. They wanted to be enjoyed by Krishna. And because Krishna's enjoyment is seeing them enjoy, they enjoy infinitely only for the purpose of giving Krishna infinite enjoyment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the greatest, most renounced acharyas, sannyasis, Babas in our line tell us that the deepest, most complete form of renunciation is the ecstatic love of the gopis of Vrindavan. They ran into the forest, leaving behind all of their worldly attachments to family, to prestige, to home, to safety, for Krishna's pleasure, and met Krishna under this holy tree. Approximately 500 years ago, Paramananda Bhattacharya, who was very, very dear friends with Madhu Pandit, disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, discovered on the bank of the Yamuna, under the Bonsai Bhatt tree, under the sand, the deity of Sri Gopinath, who, as we explained yesterday, was originally carved by Vaishnava about 5,000 years ago, but was lost to the vision of the world for a long time. Radhanatha Goswami, he worshipped the deity of Gopinath with his heart, his life, and his soul. When the consort of Nityananda Prabhu, Janaka Devi, came to Vrindavan with many of her close associates after the first Gaur festival in K3 ground, which was hosted by Narottam Das Thakur. She would visit all of the different Goswamis' temples. After Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda departed from this mortal world, she was honored as the senior most acharya of our whole sampradaya. And even the great Goswamis worshipped her as such. On her trip to Vrindavan, she was put through so many challenges. There were murderers and thieves that wanted to kill her, thinking that she must have a lot of money, otherwise why so many people are following her. There were smarta Brahmins who were worshippers of demigods, who consider her to be a great threat to the whole Vedic society. Since she had so many Brahmins who were following her, surrendering to her, thousands of villagers and townspeople were giving their lives to her. And she was teaching devotion to Krishna, and she was a female. They decided she must die. But through so many incredible arrangements, usually the demigod that they worship will come to her, will come to them with all of her weapons on the lion that she rode on, and scream at her so-called devotees, saying, Janaka Devi is my worshipable deity. I am but an expansion of her expansions. If you don't surrender to her with your whole heart and soul, I, your worshipable deity, will come to destroy you. So all these different opposing parties, they all fell at her feet at different times. And graciously she forgave them, initiated them, and induced them to follow the path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and her beloved consort Nityananda Prabhu, and give up all varieties of religion and just surrender by raising their arms, dancing in ecstasy, and chanting the holy name. She was such a motherly soul. Although great renunciates like Jiva Goswami, Gopinath Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, Radhanath Das Goswami were honoring her, she would go to each of the temples and cook offerings for the deities. From Bengal, she brought silks and jewels, specially arranged for each of the Goswami's deities. And she would love to cook for all the devotees and personally serve them with her own hands. She roamed throughout Vrindavan. She went to Sri Radha Kund, where Radhanath Goswami fell at her feet. And she pacified him in his intense feelings of separation from Lord Chaitanya. Before she was to leave Vrindavan, she went to the Gopinath temple for the darshan. It was evening time. And just as she was there, she was looking at Gopinath. Holiness Richard Swami wants me to speak for a few more minutes. She saw that Sri Radharani was so tiny and Gopinath in comparison was very large in size. And she thought in her mind that Radharani is so small. But then, as that thought appeared, immediately she was thinking, who am I to make such a judgment? Whether Radha is small and Krishna is big, this is how they appear. So without saying anything to anyone after the arati, she left. When she took rest that night at her residence, she had a dream. In the dream, a Murti of Gopinath appeared to her. He was playing his flute. And then he spoke. He said, Janava Devi, what you're saying is correct. Radharani is too small for me. I want you to go back to your place of Kardaha in Bengal and have a new deity of Radharani that is suitable to my size made. And then Srimati Radharani, little Radharani, appeared to Janava in the dream, and she said, whatever my beloved Lord said is what I want also. So she had a mission. And soon after she left Vrindavan and walked all the way back to Bengal. Near Panihati is the village of Kardaha, where she lived with Lord Nityananda Prabhu for so many years. And there, an expert craftsman named Nayana was called to carve the deity. And Janvi Devi very, very carefully guided every moment of his carving. And when the deity was carved and cast, she had a beautiful festival to put Srimati Radharani on a boat. And on that boat, she sent some of the most close associates of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. She sent many gold coins, necklaces, jewelry, cloths, spices to Vrindavan for not only Radha Gopinath but all the different deities of the Goswamis. And on the ghat, as the boat was departing on the river Ganga, Janava Devi, with loving tears in her eyes and folded palms, she prayed to Gopinath here in Vrindavan. That my dear Lord, please arrange for your beloved Srimati Radharani to have a safe and happy journey into your eternal abode. And she sent a message very quickly to Narottam Thakur, to Srinivasacharya, to Shamananda, that the deity would be stopping in Katwa, because that was on the way. And when the boat arrived in Katwa, all these great personalities and so many of their disciples were having Harinam Sankirtan at the ghat as Radharani with her devotees approached on the boat. Srinivasacharya got on and started offering gifts. Narottam Thakur worshipped Srimati Radharani. They were all one by one offering their love, their devotion. And when the king, Viramir, who previously he was a dacoit, he was actually the ruler over criminals and thieves and killers. That's how he made so much of his wealth and became so powerful. But by the influence of Srinivasacharya, he became a humble and gentle devotee who just wanted to be the servant of the servant of the servant of everyone. And when this king, Viramir, when he saw the loving exchanges of all these different devotees who came together to honor Srimati Radharani, he was struck with wonder. He understood at that time that the real testimony of true devotion is how devotees lovingly serve each other, honor each other, with Sri Radha and Krishna in the center of their lives. Vrindavan is a place where, because everyone loves Krishna, everyone loves each other. And when Krishna sees all the devotees loving each other, that gives him unlimited happiness. When Srimati Radharani came to Vrindavan, it was a beautiful, glorious festival to install her beside Sri Gopinath. Madhu Pandit was very, very happy to preside over this ceremony. And the little deity of Radharani was put next to her, on the other side of Gopinath. And we learn from our Vaishnava literatures that sometime after this, Janani Devi herself came back to Vrindavan. She put a close to her pastimes within this world by going on the altar and entering into the form of the small deity of Srimati Radharani. Because Janani Devi in Krishna's Leela in Goloka is Srimati Radharani's younger sister, Ananda Manjari. From that time, that small deity is still there, is worshipped as Ananda Manjari, Shri Janani Devi. Shri Radha Gopinath ki Gopinath is our Prayojana Mochi. He is worshipped and bestows upon his devotees who worship him the ultimate perfection of the prema of the Gopis. This is the single purpose of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. Nagananda Jananda Sundari Sadnitam Vajagati Shakamani Mama Janmani Janmani Shri Bhagavad Bhakti Bhagavad. We simply want to serve the Lord unconditionally. And this love of the inhabitants of Vrindavan was the special gift of Lord Chaitanya, which Srila Prabhupada brought to the whole world. You want me to speak till 6:30? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was on his South Indian tour, he went to Sri Lanka, where he danced in ecstatic love before the Murti of Rangana. And as he raised his arms with tears of compassion toward everybody around him, how could anybody resist from joining the Namasankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Soon there were dozens, then there were hundreds, then there were thousands of people in Sri Lanka, dancing and chanting like they had never done before. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was flooding that holy city with Krishna prema. And Katabhatta, who was a Brahmin and a priest of the temple, he fell in love with the Lord, fell at his feet, and invited him to his home. When Venkatapata welcomed the Lord into his home, he washed Lord Chaitanya's feet with great devotion. Then he took that water and sprinkled it on his own head, sprinkled on his wife's head, and his two brothers, Trimala Bhatt and Prabodhananda Saraswati, and then gave that water to his little 7-year-old son, Gopal Bhatt, to drink. Seeing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's beautiful form, feeling Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's compassion, and drinking the water that had washed Lord Chaitanya's feet, the little boy fell to the ground, weeping in ecstatic love uncontrollably. From that moment, his life, his soul, his everything was only to serve Lord Chaitanya. For the next 4 months, little 7-year-old Gopal was constantly engaging in ceremonial services to Lord Gauranga. One day, a thought struck his heart. This is my beloved Lord. And in Navadvip, he had his beautiful consort with him. He had wonderful, long, flowing hair. But now he's taken sannyas. He's renounced his home, his beloved mother, his family. He's cut his hair. He's taken off all his elegant jewels and his nice clothes to wear the drab cloth of an ascetic sannyasi. It was breaking his heart to see his Lord performing such severe austerities as a Swami. And again throughout the day, he would be crying silently within his own heart, why am I so unfortunate that I could not take birth in Navadvip, where I could see my Lord as the supreme enjoyer? Why have I taken birth to see him in the state of a sannyasi?
He could practically not even sleep at night. He was in such a state, crying out, Okoranga, Okoranga. And toward the end of one night, he fell asleep. And as he fell asleep, he had a vision. There was Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, Advaitacharya, and the other devotees walking along the banks of the Ganges in Navadvip. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had beautiful, beautiful long hair. He had wonderful flower garlands around him. And he smiled at little Gopal. And Gopal was walking beside him. Then Nityananda and Advaita called little Gopal and said, we want to tell you a secret. But just before they spoke anything in his ear, he woke up. He was so shaken by this. He ran to where Lord Chaitanya actually was. He was sitting in a room. And he fell at Lord Chaitanya's feet crying. And he looked up at Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya smiled upon him. And then before his own eyes, wide awake, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested his beautiful form as Shamsundar, playing his flute in the forests of Vrindavan. He saw the peacock feather adorning his hair, his complexion like a dark monsoon cloud, his clothes like lightning, wearing a beautiful garland of 5 different types of forest flowers. Little Gopal then saw that beautiful form of Krishna, Sri Nandanandana, transformed into Navadvip Chandra. Lord Chaitanya, in his Leela in Navadvip, with his long, beautiful hair, with his arms raised, he saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inducing the world to chant the holy names of Krishna. Little Gopal was so overwhelmed in ecstatic love, he fell at Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, grabbed his feet and started bathing the Lord's feet with his tears. But when he looked up, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was sitting as a sannyasi. And the Lord lifted up Gopal and put him on his lap and embraced him and bathed the child with his tears as Gopal bathed the Lord with his tears. Lord Chaitanya told him, I am sending you to Vrindavan. In due course of time, you must go there. And there you will meet Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami. And you will be just like their third brother. There, all of your most innermost desires will be fulfilled. But for now, you must stay here in Srirangam and carefully serve your mother and father, who are my dear beloved devotees. During these 4 months, the happiness of Srirangam cannot be explained in mortal words. But as the Chaturmasi was approaching the end, Venkatapata, Trimalapata, Prabodhananda Saraswati, and Gopal Bhatta, they were grieving that soon our beloved Lord was going to leave us. what will be our life? We have become so deeply, deeply attached to doing Harinam Sankirtan throughout the day with Lord Chaitanya, hearing Hari Katha and Vrindavan Katha with the Lord, going to see the darshan of Ranganath with the Lord, bathing in the river Kaveri with the Lord. How will we survive? Alas, that day came where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu departed. And the family, the only solace they had, practically day and night, they just discuss among themselves pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan that he had awakened in their hearts. Gopal became a disciple of his uncle, Prabhupada Saraswati. How he learned the Vedic literatures according to the conclusions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His scholarship was literally known throughout the entire land of India. And some years later, when his mother and father were about to depart from the world, they blessed Gopal. On Lord Chaitanya's direction, go to Vrindavan and serve the Lord with your heart and soul. And then chanting the names of Krishna, Venkatabhata, and his good wife passed from this world to the spiritual realm. By foot, Gopal Bhatt went to Vrindavan. At that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was at the Gopinath temple with Gadadhar Pandit and all of his very, very close associates. And he was just wondering, whatever happened to Gopal? Of course, the Lord knows everything. But at the same time, for the sake of intimate loving exchanges with his devotees, these are actually his feelings. Just at that moment, a messenger came with a letter from Rupan Sanatana Goswami. Said, today Gopal Bhatt has arrived in Vrindavan, and we are like brothers together for your happiness. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so happy. He sent with those messengers back to Vrindavan the wooden seat that Lord Chaitanya would personally sit on when he would do his worship, and his own kopan, or outer cloth, as gifts for Gopal Bhatt Goswami. When Gopal Bhatt Goswami was living here in Vrindavan, in the association of Rupa and Sanatana, later Shiva Goswami, Radhanath Goswami, Radhanath Bhatt Goswami, Gopinath Goswami, Gopal Goswami. He was so dear to everyone's heart. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was ordered by all the Vaishnavas to write Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he felt that he had no qualification. The only qualification was the blessings of the Vaishnavas. So he went to each and every Vaishnava with great humility, not just as a formality, but he honored, respected the Vaishnavas so deeply that he felt it's only possible with their blessings. When he came to Gopal Bhatt Goswami certainly bestowed his full heartfelt blessings on Kaviraj Goswami, but requested him, do not write about me in this literature. What an incredible personality. This is going to be the most important literature, the postgraduate study of Srimad Bhagavatam for all time to come. Wouldn't you like some chapters about you in that book? For all the world to read forever? But Gopal Bhatt Goswami simply wanted to see all the other devotees glorified. So only very discreetly did Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami mention his name. While he described in great detail so many of the other associates of the Lord in Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared to Gopal Bhatt Goswami and told him to go to Nepal, what is now called Nepal, to the river Gandaki. There, with his water pot, he took water for his bath, and in the pot, 12 shalagram shilas appeared. So he put the shalagram shilas back in the Gandaki and took more water out, and 12 shalagram shilas again were there. This happened 3 times. And he came to the conclusion that the Lord must want to come back to Vrindavan with me to worship in these shilas. So he brought them back and worshiped them with great devotion. One time, a very wealthy person came to Vrindavan to give ornaments and clothes and crowns to the different deities of the great Goswamis. And he offered to Gopal Bhatt Goswami. But there's only so much you can offer to a Shalagram Shila. In his heart, Krishna manifested himself within Gopal's heart to create the desire to be worshipped by Gopal in another form. We should understand that the heart of the desire, such pure souls, are mirrors of Krishna's desire. When Gopal Bhatt Goswami was thinking, I would like to offer more intimate loving service to the threefold bending form of Krishna, it meant Krishna wanted to receive that devotion from him. It was Narasingha Chaturdasi. And on that day, Gopal Bhatt prayed to Lord Krishna that for your little devotee Prahlad, you appeared in a transcendental form out of a stone pillar. If it is your desire, please appear from this stone Shalagram Shila in your transcendental form so that I can serve you. The next morning, he woke up, took his bath in the Yamuna River, collected some water to perform his abhishek, and when he came to bathe his shalagrams, one of those Shivas, the Damodar Shiva, had manifest the form of Krishna, standing in his Trivanga, threefold bending form, playing upon his flute. So beautiful. Gopal Bhatt Goswami, in great ecstasy, he called for Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and the others, and they all came there to have a beautiful festival. And when they saw the form of Sri Radharaman, they were struck with wonder. He was a self-manifesting deity that grew right out of a Shalagram Shiva with such fine features, little teeth, and fingernails, and each of his limbs were So beautiful. We were describing how Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda, and Radha Gopinath, each of them perfectly represented the feet, the chest, and the flute-playing hands and the face of the Lord. Sambandha, Avideya, and Prayojana. And all the Goswamis unanimously agreed that the feet of Madan Mohan, the flute playing of Gopinath, and the smiling face of Govinda are all together fully manifested in the form of Gopal Bhatt Goswami's Lord. And because just close by is Nidhuban, where Krishna renders loving service for the pleasure of Radha, the Goswamis named the deity Radharaman. And Gopal Bhatt Goswami worshipped that deity with his heart and soul. One day, in his humility, he was feeling a certain pain in his heart. That who am I to worship the beautiful threefold ending form of Radharaman? It is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's the one that showered all blessings upon me. He's the one that gave me entrance into Vrindavan. He's the one who opened the doors to Braj Bhakti for me. He's the one who gave me the association of Rupa and Sanatan and Raghunathas. He's my all in all. And my beloved Father, who Lord Chaitanya told me to serve till he died. Before he left this body, he gave me the instruction to worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with my heart and soul. Who am I to be worshiping Krishna? Radharaman was looking down at Gopal Bhatt Goswami with a smile on his face. Because the Lord knows our heart. And as Gopal Bhatt looked at the beautiful smiling face of Sri Radharaman, Radharaman manifested himself as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with golden complexion. Krishna, who had taken the form of Lord Chaitanya with the complexion and the sweet love of Sri Radharani in his heart. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glanced and smiled in the ecstasy of love, crying tears, chanting the holy names as Gopal Bhatt Goswami was beholding this beautiful darshan. Suddenly, that form of Lord Gauranga transformed into Sri Radharaman, playing upon his flute. Radharaman would speak to Gopal Bhatt Goswami to fulfill all of his desires. Gopal Bhatt Goswami, before departing into Krishna's eternal abode of Goloka, he established very, very high devotional standards of worship. And to this day, the descendants of his disciples have preserved it. One time, Srila Prabhupada told the devotees that we should study the worship of Radharaman temple to understand that spirit of worship of the deity. And tonight, we have with us very, very close, loving associates who received. Personally, he probably received more individual instructions from Prabhupada than 90% of all of Prabhupada's disciples together. Of course, every word of every page of every one of Prabhupada's books and lectures and everything he ever said to any of his disciples that we've heard, they're all intimate, personal instructions to us. And we should see it that way. When Srila Prabhupada was writing his books and his commentaries, it was Radharani, it was Srila Bihariji, it was Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. It was our whole parampara of great acharyas, intimate associates from the spiritual world, including the 6 Goswamis. They were speaking through Srila Prabhupada's ecstatic, loving heart to each and every one of us. We can think of it this way because if we understand it this way, it is the truth. As Krishna played his flute and each gopi heard Krishna calling her. As Krishna would call the name of the cows and each cow would hear only her name. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu during kirtan, sometimes every devotee was thinking, he's only looking at me. It's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy manifesting through Srila Prabhupada. So when we're reading his books, we should think like this. At this moment, Srila Prabhupada is speaking personally to me. This should make us proud. It should make us very humble and very grateful because we should know he's doing the same thing for everyone else. And this should give us eagerness to want to hear from him, to want to somehow or other escape from whatever we're doing whenever we can, to hear Srila Prabhupada speak to us. This is the way Prabhupada was empowered. And to get a deep, intimate glimpse of how we can actually experience Prabhupada's presence in his tapes, in his books, in the service they render to his devotees, and to his mission. Srila Prabhupada had beautiful pastimes with many of his very, very close associates. And when they share their memories, they open the doors for all of us. To feel this enthusiasm. Yes, I too am being called like this. Let us all pray that we can have this realization and be grateful to such surrendered associates of our Gurudev, like His Holiness Richard Swami Vrindavan. We've spent so many beautiful moments, days, weeks with Srila Prabhupada in Bombay, Calcutta, in Madras, in Mayapur, and here in Sri Vrindavan. Let us welcome Gopinath Swami.
बाहर तो अभी आया